And we're live.
We are live. I can't do that voice. You're cheating. You got that microphone.
Yeah, I can go.
I've got this little thing. This thing doesn't sound like that.
We are live. Welcome, everyone.
Oh, you're feeling kind of weird right now. Oh, my God. Oh, you get all sexy on us with that blonde beard, huh? That deep voice.
At least you say blonde. So your monitor's calibrated. That's good to see, Aaron. So
yeah, it's calibrated. So you look like a blonde bombshell.
Yep, it's definitely blonde. These people that say it's grey just don't know what on earth they're talking about.
Their monitors aren't calibrated, that's for sure. I'm still setting everything up. Okay, got my chat, got everything going. People's here. Right. Hey, Dana, Carl.
Yeah, Dana. Yep, Carl's here. Dana, Aaron's here.
Julian.
Haas is here. Julian, yep. So Colin is here as well. Oh boy, did I have fun playing with this thing last night, Aaron? Just
I saw you.
Just another gimbal.
Right when I got home from my trip, I saw you unboxing that. That's too funny.
I can't wait to start playing with it. I still haven't had much time yet, so I will be today. I'll be starting to play around with it.
Based on the specs, does it look like it's going to be something that like is far superior than all your other 50 or what?
Yeah, because it's got tracking in it. Like you can actually track stuff. You know how you do it with your
with the Osmo.
The Osmo. It does the same thing.
Ah, yeah, it's kind of cool.
So it'll track the subject. So then you could sort of rotate around a bride or a groom or whatever, and it's going to keep them in the center of the frame or whatever.
That's cool.
So it's got features like that will be really good. And also, it's going to work with the LIDAR thing that I'm going to mention a little bit later as well. But, and there's some good little attachments. But it's more the weight is really nice on it compared to the other ones. And the build quality, software is really nice from what I've looked at so far. I think it's really good. Like I said, I'll probably sell most of my others and just keep one of the Firetech ones for a small gimbal, and then I'll keep that for the larger one, and I'll sell my Moza Air 2 and the Moza Air Cross. So I'll sell both of those. Someone just said last night you should donate them like in competition. I said, but I've paid for them. Like I actually did pay for them out of my own money. So these are all out of my own money.
Exactly.
That's out of my own money. So.
And you got to get your money back to put it towards something else or something.
Yeah. So it's not like they're donated ones. The Firetech one, 2 of them were donated, but I might do something with one of them and keep one of them. So, but there was a new one released today, I noticed, which I think I'm getting sent.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
If I hear that doorbell, I'm gonna. Oh my gosh! How many do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, and you lost one in Vegas, so you had 11.
Yeah, 11, and I've got some in there, though. I've also got some that I'm not displaying, Aaron, in the other room. Gosh.
So 12, 13, 16.
Yeah, but some of them are old. The stupid thing is I should have sold the other ones
I know, now they're old.
Ages ago. Now that they're old and outdated, I think one of them I spent $1,500 on.
Wow.
Years ago. It was about 3-4 years ago. And, now it's probably worth absolutely nothing.
That's right.
I should have sold that. I don't know why I keep things. I really should sell them. But now we're coming out of lockdown, I can start to sell, because I do intend to sell a lot of the stuff that I've got to give me a bit more money to buy other things. And I didn't do it while we were in lockdown because no one could come and, you couldn't give anything over. So I'll now probably get rid of a lot of stuff that I'm not using anymore, I think.
I got one gimbal. Which one is that? I forget it. It's that crane. I don't even know how to pronounce the name.
One of the cranes, yeah. Well,
the first one. The first one that came out. I got it then, and I still have it. And it still works. I don't see no need to upgrade. And I don't do too many fancy things with it. Yeah. So, it does good for me.
See, I use them all the time.
You use them
particularly
all the
in
time.
weddings. Yeah, so it really matters to me.
For sure.
If I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't bother really upgrading them. But the things about that one was the tracking particularly. I liked the look of from when I saw it, so I thought that could be really nice to be able to do that. And plus the way it works with the iPhone and the screen, like you can be sort of working up really high and you can still be seeing what you're doing and all this sort of stuff. So it's going to have some nice features, but I'll just have to let you know.
When I if I do video, I usually use a slider like this. slide it back and forth, just hand type thing, put it on a tripod. And when those electronic, I used to have a regular gimbal, non-electronic, I forget what they call those, just a gimbal, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember. Steadicam. And once the electronic gimbals started raising their head, they were like, like $15,000, like ridiculous amount of price. But then once they came down in price, I thought one of those would actually replace like a slider, because I always hated taking this if I'm go on vacation. I used to do a lot of like videos of the towns or woods or whatever, and do sliding shots. I use this for production-y commercial stuff too, but I always thought like a gimbal would replace this, but I still kind of, maybe they can now. I mean, doing like a sliding shot, I guess you can get it off, but I always still notice a little dip in my videos where this is like
as good.
Yeah, it's not quite as good. Maybe you can get away with it, but I never, I still use this. I never replaced it with a gimbal for those types of shots, where you're just doing like sliding shots. But now you say they have tracking, which is my point. Now you can kind of maybe track on something, like whatever is in the, whatever you're sliding, and maybe it'll do that for you or close to it or something. It's more the
reveals. You can always, I still think I get a nicer look with a slider if I'm, say, revealing behind a door and then showing the bride getting the dress done. Like I do always get a nicer look doing that, but sometimes it just comes down to how much gear I can carry, like you just have to sort of make do with what you've got. And sometimes I just
just make it work.
Yeah, just make it work. And if you slow it down enough, you don't really notice anyway.
Now, do you use any techniques where you like kind of just shift your, so you're not going up and down as you're sliding? I'm exaggerating here.
Just
but
leaning,
you try to.
I try and lean sort of across and things like that I do.
It's just a
but
steady
the new ones, that new one that I've got, that new slider, the electronic one I've got, is very small. So that's quite good because it's only small. Yeah, that thing's
cool.
Yeah, and I can use that, like just throw that in the backpack and then, like use it. So that's not so bad. It's more, because I had the same like you, which was a really big one, and it's awkward to carry around. If you're trying to sort of do fusion-y stuff, it's awkward to lug everything around. So if you get these little ones that double in their width when they slide.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, that's sort of good, and I often do take that to just do little things. And it's more like if I wanted to, say, get a close-up of the flowers and the rings and then reveal out, I like to use the slider more than using a gimbal. It's just you can get your critical focus and then you can sort of slide out and then reverse it in post. Yeah,
that's what I always used to do with the slider. Now, was that... I know the first company that kind of came out with the slider that doubles its length by just the way.
That was the Chrome.
Yeah, that one. That's not the one you have. You have a.
No, I've got that. I've got two of them.
Yeah, I've seen both of them, but now I've got confused.
Sell them. I will sell them. No, the other one I've got out there is only really quite small. I'll show you, because hang on.
Yeah, show me, and show everybody else. Who else is here? Marvelous Visuals. How you doing? Got Colin. I think I said that. Anybody new in here that I didn't say? Michael Garcia.
It's on a tripod.
I can see your hand.
But let me just move this and I'll show you.
Yeah, that's the last one you had.
So so it will double its length. So even though it's only that small, it will double its length. So that's how that works. So these are really good because they're quite small. I've got this also without this, because you can use it just as a manual slider, and I've got the version of this without the electronic component as well. But I really love these because it gives you a beautiful slide. Like, it's so smooth.
Yeah.
And, it'll just keep going backwards and forwards and stuff. They're really nice. And apparently you can get, I think they're going to also do, this is a micro too, but I think they're also going to get like a panning tilt head, that you can also do the pans and tilts electronically as well.
Yeah, those are kind of cool because maybe you can't hear me without it. No, you can't hear me. The really cool thing about the pan and tilts is if you have it like on an angle, then you can have it pan for time lapse and pan cool things. Yeah, never got into that before, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. So
I don't know. I mean, I'll see how I go. I mean, I've got to see how I'll go with this. I mean, this also has time lapses and hyperlapse and everything built into this gimbal, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all goes. But there's a bit to learn on it, so I'll be spending the next week or so.
Now that has a screen on it.
Yeah, and it's got a color screen.
And what's that do?
Well, you can actually see when you're tracking, it'll show you the square around what you're looking at. So what you're looking at through the camera appears on the back of that screen.
So you're an HDMI out to the unit or what?
Yeah, the HDMI out goes into the gimbal with that little box that I've got, and then you see the actual picture on the gimbal screen. So you could follow that, and you'll see the square. It's a green square, the tracking square around what you're tracking. So it looks really cool.
Very, very cool, man. Can't wait till your video.
Looks nice. So. I'm just laughing. George said grey is the new blonde. I
saw that. I saw that. Grey is the new blonde.
I said, look at all those cricket trophies. I mean, gimbals. I love it. And then Nivak said, David accumulates gimbals like the ultra-rich accumulate vacation homes.
He does. Look at him. He's got 16. We counted them.
I have more gimbals than I need, but not as many gimbals as I want. I love all this stuff, all these gimbals. Oh, my God.
That's funny.
Hey, David, do you think they will allow the iPhones to be wireless monitors with the new Raven Eye? Well, I'm not sure. They may. It is wireless, though. I know it has to connect in. I haven't done it yet, so I don't know, Marvelous Visuals, how it all works yet. I've got to try it, but that's what it uses. It uses the iPhone, but I think the iPhone has to be connected into that Raven Eye. Whether they do allow it to be wireless, that will be pretty cool. They'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
And what are you guys talking about? That would be
the Raven Eye is the part that connects underneath, Aaron, that gives you the ability to do the tracking. It's a very, very small box that clips in underneath the actual gimbal. Here, it just fits in. It's very, very light. It fits in. That has a HDMI out that connects to your camera, and then it also connects to your gimbal, and it works that way, I think. But then your phone, there's an attachment that fits on the side so that you can see it on your phone, and you can do things like focus peaking, false color, all this sort of stuff through the app that's connected to it. So it's really powerful, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
The app that they've come up with,
pretty neat.
Yeah, so I'll have to see how it all works out. But yeah, if it was wireless, it would be terrific. I think at this stage it needs to be wired in with one of the cables, I think. But like I said, I haven't even looked at it yet, so I can't really answer that until I look at it.
Okay, what about a show start?
Yep.
Because we're getting...
I knew you would add that gimbal to your graveyard. I called it before.
You've got the graveyard back there.
Sam said, what slider? Now, that mine was it's the Micro 2. Which one was your slider, Aaron?
Oh, mine's the, this is an old one. It still works pretty good. What is that? The Canova slider. It's in focus. Canova.
Yep.
Works good. It's like a ball bearing type thing, you know?
Yep. Mine's the Micro 2. I've reviewed it, so if you want to check it, it's on my channel. So it's been reviewed there.
Is heavy, though, too.
All right, so let's get started anyway, because we've got a little bit to get through, actually, with some new camera gear and things like that.
I'm going to put show start.
Pretty interesting. So let me just share this, because it's interesting. Pentax have, they're releasing a new camera. I'm surprised.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought Pentax were finished, but
yeah, me too.
Obviously not. There's a new camera come out now. It's an APS-C camera, but Aaron, let me just clear this off.
There's a big butt on there.
Let me get rid of that. They're saying that it can hit ISO 1.6 million.
Okay, so it can hit it, but it's not useful.
I mean, 1.6 million, an APS-C sensor that's going to hit 1.6 million. They're not saying what the quality is going to be like, but
is it like 5 megapixel camera or something?
No, it's not. It's it's $2,500, so it's not cheap. It's quite expensive. It's their high-end.
Are you showing it now?
Camera? Yeah, I'm going through it now. Yeah, and it's. I mean, it looks quite nice. Like it really does sort of look like a pretty good camera. I'm just trying to see down here what the specs. They're saying the specs are. It's
Aren't they big on weather sealing?
Well, it will be, I would think. But it's got a new optical viewfinder. So it's an optical viewfinder. That's interesting. It's featuring 1.5 times magnification, pentaprism. So it's using a pentaprism. Outstanding operability, featuring new shutter control mechanism, touchscreen LCD, and improved grip. Does it mention anything about resolution or anything? Oh, yeah, it's 25.73 megapixels.
25 megapixels APS-C that goes up that high of ISO. Interesting.
Now, what else are they saying here? Pricing is to be announced, but they're expecting it to be about $2,400 to $2,900. They're saying continuous shooting and tracking performance has been upgraded. Maximum continuous shooting speed is now 12 frames per second, and the AF has been updated with a wider coverage and improved subject tracking. Now, there's a video there that you can play that I'm not going to play the whole thing. I mean, I'm not going to play it, but I'll leave the link down below so you can have a look at what it's like and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I mean, would you want to spend that sort of money for a APS-C camera?
What's it giving us that like my camera doesn't do now? Just high unusable ISO maybe?
1.6 million
We'd
ISO.
have to see it. Maybe they have something, that's just amazing. I mean, I don't know.
Well, how do they do that? Like, I mean, the A7S3 can't even do that in its full frame. So how are they talking about that being able to do that on an APS-C? I don't understand how they could do it. Is it revolutionary that they can do that?
What about that? What's it called when you have dual ISO? I mean, even
this must have quad ISO.
Quad ISO. I don't know. Maybe they're just like Neovex just said. Is this the new? Is high ISO the new huge megapixels? That might be it, But at least megapixels are, as of right now, at least usable. But some of the ISOs are unusable, even though they can go so high.
Yeah.
Do they show any examples of the high ISO?
Let me just check the website here just to see what this shows.
That's kind of interesting. But it might just be bragging rights, like, oh my gosh, look, we can, do the electronic gain up to this much.
Yeah, see, it doesn't. I mean, it's easy to put out specs. You could say anything, couldn't you? I mean, but it's probably completely useless. I mean, I know some of those, some of the security ones and stuff like that, the new sensors have been out that will let you go, but the unusable, I mean, it looks like, just a grainy, crappy thing that you could just basically make something out. So
yeah, you can make something out like, oh, it was a guy or a girl or this tall or that tall, or it was an animal or a bear, but you really can't make out any detail, and not for production value, that's for sure. But
it's not cheap. So, I mean, I don't know much about Pentax. What lenses do they use? Do you know, Aaron?
No, that's one camera I've never got into.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, that's Pentax. I'm not sure whether it follow the Micro Four Thirds where they can take Olympus or is it proprietary?
Not if it's APS-C.
Oh yeah, it's APS-C, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's what you said. I'm just going off of what you said.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure.
APS-C.
Yeah, Pentax. Anybody know what lenses Pentax?
Yeah, let us know in the chat. If anyone is in the chat, I'd love to know.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, is it a proprietary system that you have to have Pentax lenses? I'll be curious to know too. But $2,500 US is not cheap. It'd have to be pretty good for me to.
Yeah, I know, right? But what? It's just like Sony for me, Sony now is like the camera brand I always go back to when I try something new. Panasonic used to be that for me, but now it's Sony. Every time I say, well, let me try that, let me go back to this, and I always just come back to Sony. I would say Sony isn't a really fun camera to use for me, to be honest. It's just not fun. And I was trying to figure out why isn't Sony fun to use for me? And quite honestly, it's because it's really good. It works so flawless and good that it actually takes a lot of the fun out of some of the other cameras where maybe the focus isn't quite right, or you've got, Micro Four Thirds doesn't have the greatest low light, so you have to add light. So you're always, doing all these things to get the image to look great, or focus or whatever, or it's big or too small or something or the buttons or whatever. But man, the Sony A7 III style cameras, they just work so good that it's just it's so easy. I think that is what I come to the conclusion that they just work so good, at least for me, that I just keep coming back because they just work, and they're not fun, and they don't got all the dials like Fuji and other cameras, but they just work really good. So.
Well, Delta Dave said that the Pentax APS-C glass is top drawer. He said it's as good as Fuji.
So they have their own lenses.
Yeah, Hypres said, I would buy a Pentax if it let me have 5:4 aspect ratio crop, screw Nikon only putting it in the top models only. Delta Dave also said that the weather sealing is legendary. Well, there you go. So the weather sealing is meant to be really, really good. So
I've always heard about that. So that might be something good for people that are in adverse weather conditions and who really need something. And if the ISO is, of course, it probably won't be completely usable at those highest ranges, just like the A7 III or whatever isn't too usable at the highest ranges. But usually that means if they can push it that far, it's still pretty, it can still go up pretty usable, you know. So it might be a good camera for people who need it, you know.
I'm just laughing at Rob because Rob said setting it to 1.6 million is like, this is Spinal Tap, but ours goes to 11.
I've seen that.
If you're a muso like me, I used to love that because it was always, it goes to 11. That was such a classic statement. And Delta Dave also said the 200 2.8 Gold Star lens is magic. Well, there you go. So Delta Dave knows quite a bit about that. All right, so that's the Pentax.
What was that?
That's the Pentax camera. Now, I wanted to go through a couple of things with the Z6. So I wanted to give Nikon a bit of a sort of push here. So there's a couple of things I'm going to show is autofocus on the Z6 and also the pictures, the portraits from the Z7. Now, these are the Z7 2s, Z7 II, Aaron, and the Z7 II.
Wow, yeah, they're on 2 now.
So there's, look, they've really done what they should have done in the beginning, Aaron, with these. They've put the dual card slots in. They've given better autofocus. You can now put in a battery grip. So they've really sort of answered the things that they should have done with that first one. And I still don't understand why they did what they did with the first releases, Aaron.
Yeah, if they would have did that, they would have had, you know, a huge head start now, because after those came out, I mean, I don't know anybody, anybody who said this, but I'm sure a lot of people, oh, Nikon's coming out with a new camera, just like you do with all camera manufacturers. And then when they come out with something that doesn't quite deliver, you're like, oh man. And then you're probably thinking about maybe, should I switch or not? And then they come out with something that you waited for, and then you're you're left disappointed. And maybe some of those people then just said, you know what, I'm just going to switch now. If they would have just came out with the new mirrorless cameras with these features, then it might have held more customers. I'm just theorizing here. But I think I think they just waited a little too long to do it. But hey, at least they did it. And if these cameras can be really good, maybe those people who didn't switch get them and rave about it, and they do good from here on out.
I mean, look, I've always admired the look that the Nikon cameras gave me, and that's why when I sold my Nikon, I went straight to Sony, because it gave me basically the same look. But I think if you look at the new Z6, even the first version, the video that they got out of that was stunning. I mean, it was really nice video. It was beautiful, and the images have always been really beautiful, but they did lack a little bit in autofocus. But I'll show you a little bit on this here. Let me just turn off the volume because it'll probably feed back, and I don't want to play it because it's someone else's video, but I'll just talk through it. So basically, if you watch this, and like I said, I'll leave this down below so you can have a look at, but it looks like the eye autofocus focus overall has been dramatically improved. But what I don't like, Aaron, if you look, it switches eyes really aggressively. Now, he did say in the video that it didn't seem to matter, but I'm a bit confused by that, because whatever the Sony locks on is the eye that's in focus. But you can see here that it's tracking really, really well. And he shows some different focusing modes here. This is where it's that red square is what's going to be sort of pushing the focus. This is tracking. So this is the object tracking working now. So it's very similar to how the focus of the Sony's work with the tracking that's there. But notice how the eye switches, it just keeps going between.
Well, I think it's kind of on the same plane. I think that's why they say it doesn't matter. But if you do get closer with an f1 point, I don't know what their fastest lens, 1.4 even, I guess, that could be an issue. Like right there, it just switched when she turned her head. That would definitely be an issue. If you're going to crop later or you're closer, you definitely have a blurry eye there if you're at, opened wide f1.4 or something crazy like that.
Now, this is his video test, so he's showing here, like I said, I'll leave this down below so you can watch the full video, but he's showing the video autofocus here. coming up in a minute, and it looks really nice as well. You can see the rendering and everything looks beautiful. I mean, the lenses are lovely. You can see here the autofocus through video. It looks terrific. I mean, I think it's really locked on nicely here. There doesn't seem to be any hunting that's sort of going on. So it looks like it's really nice. Again, you know, showing different things here with the autofocus locking on. It looks like the eye autofocus disappears. He said that, but it still is working, like if you're sort of shooting quickly. But I think overall he's saying that there's been a fairly big jump in how the autofocus works in this camera. So not only have they improved it with things like giving a dual card slots now, it looks like, you know, the autofocus now. I think now, to be honest, the autofocus between Sony, Canon, and Nikon is very, very close, Aaron.
Yeah, I think close enough for most users. Now you can get real picky, you know, like every time like Sony came out with a new camera, it would say, now it focuses this fast. It's like microns faster, which you probably won't ever notice, but you know, for bragging rights, they made it faster. So I think you're right. They're so close that for just normal shooting conditions, like most people will be doing, I don't think you're going to notice much of a difference.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I even use the Sony 50mm f1.8, which isn't known to be a fast lens. And for portraits and stuff, it's like, I never miss any shots. So I can imagine any new camera system today, I think is going to pull it off pretty good.
Yeah, so he's using a 2.8 lens here as well. So he's not using, you know, like a stop down. It's 2.8 that he's shooting at. It looks, I mean, I've looked at the video, and like I said, if you watch the video, then he talks you through all of his results and what he's finding out and how it's all working. And it seems to be that it's good. The object tracking now looks like it works very, very well. So they've definitely improved the algorithms, just like they've improved the algorithms with the Canon, the latest Canons too. Now also track and focus very, very well. And like I said, I think Sony still has the edge, but boy, it's getting that close now that I really don't think it matters anymore. So there's a whole article anyway that you can read about this, and you know, he talks all about the different things and different focusing modes that he's used and worked on. And it looks like it really is quite sticky now, which is terrific. The tracking looks like it's really good. So good on Nikon. I mean, it looks like they've really upped the ante with this camera. Like I said, this probably should have been the one that was released a little bit earlier. So let me just stop that, and we'll look at the Z7 now, because this is an article showing about how it's used for portraits. Now, it is pre-production, but the results that they're getting, they're beautiful. I mean, this is typical of Nikon's colors and rendering. That they're beautiful. Nikon. I mean, yeah, they're really stunning looking images. Again, it's another article that you can have, that you can read. Like I said, I'll leave the links all down below. But it looks like these two cameras, they really have lifted their game. I just don't know whether it's too late, Aaron.
That's what I think. I think if they would have, I know that, you know, they had to improve on focusing, but the dual card slot type of things that they had and they could have done, I think they might have kept a lot more people. But for those who really like Nikon, now I love Nikon. My favorite camera, one of my favorite cameras of all time, is the Nikon D750. I mean, I just loved how it worked. I loved the colors coming out of it. I just really liked the camera a lot. But mirrorless was already out, and I was already working with mirrorless for years before I got that. And I just, you know, transitioning back to a DSLR was kind of like, I like my mirrorless better, so I ended up getting rid of it to go back to mirrorless. But man, yeah, I like Nikon a lot, and if they keep going, maybe they'll come out with a, I don't know if this camera's a wow. Now I have to look up the camera, but I don't know if this is like something, like, I don't know if there's anything about it that like wowed me that would make me want to, you know, go back to Nikon at the moment.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah, there's nothing, if you're already in Nikon and you just like to stay there, yeah, great. But for me to switch to it, neither Canon for me either. Nothing really stands out like, oh my gosh, I got to have that. Now, if they came out with like a global shutter, because I think that's the next step that I'll probably end up getting excited about, because I feel to have a truly, what do you call it, non-moving part camera would be pretty amazing. So now if someone beat Sony to that, then I might be like, ooh, yeah, maybe. Now I'm kind of excited, but so far, I don't know. Nothing really grabs me too much.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I read another article on petapixel that we could talk about one day, but it was interesting, and it's getting to the point now where there's not really much reason to switch anymore because all the cameras basically are very, very good as they are. Like I switched originally because I needed the video. When I went, Nikon, the video was terrible, and Sony were the only ones full frame that could do video. So I switched at that time for a need that I had. But now there's almost no reason to switch anymore because, like I said, the autofocus is very, very similar in all the cameras. They all do really good video. They're really good in the image stills look really good. Like I said, even Sony now, the color has been improved so much. And I was shocked with the A7S3 how good the color was in that. There's really only niches now that would force you to switch. Like if you did want to, say, have 4K 120, well, then the Sony's the only one that could do that. But, you know, really, if you've got good lenses and you're in that system already, it's hard. But see, Nikon and Canon, the thing that they did do, they forced you to buy a completely new lens system. I know you can use the other lenses if you use the adapters, but the one thing Sony's got is the E-mount, the A6000 series and their full frame cameras are all the same mount. And I think that was a great idea. And I know a lot of Canon users and that, you know, they put it on Sony because the mount's so small, but I think that's just marketing garbage. But I don't know. I mean, I'm worried for Nikon only because I think the original cameras that they released, they haven't sold well at all. Oh, the original mirrorless, yeah. And now that a lot of people have sort of gone over, say, to Canon and Nikon, that's why I worry about them. And in fact, I just looked at the recent sales and Nikon have been level. They haven't changed at all. Canon is challenging Sony now. So Canon are actually doing very, very well. And I might talk about this on Friday's live Sony show. But Canon are now starting to push back towards Sony, but Nikon are staying flat, so it's not good.
Yeah, Nikon, one thing you mentioned lenses, that's one thing that I really like about Sony. The reason why I left Panasonic to go to Sony was a Sony a7 III and that Tamron. I said it so many times, but that lens, the 28-75, I really like that lens. But then once I got into Sony and I started playing around with the lenses, there's a lot of lenses that fits my needs as far as aperture, size, weight, cost. I know there's expensive ones, but there's also inexpensive ones for the quality, everything there. So now when I look at other manufacturers, even the ones I've had, they just don't have quite that lens that Sony has for me. So lenses is kind of a big deal to me. When I looked up when Canon came out, man, they're just huge and heavy. Panasonic came out with their full frame because I said, man, if the G9 would have a full frame sensor, that would be the perfect camera for me. And of course, they came out with a full frame sensor, but the lenses were huge and expensive. So Sony, for me, just really fits the bill, especially with the lenses as well. So Nikon, I'm not sure their new lenses, nothing gets me on that either. So yeah. I think I'll probably be sticking with Sony now. Jim just said the Nikon D750 is the same sensor as the A7 II, which is cool. And then someone here said, was it Axeman says he misses Nikon, but he got rid of that for an A6100 Sony, and he don't think he'll ever change. So hopefully a lot of people, hopefully Nikon doesn't get a whole bunch of people like that switched and then they don't go back because I think they're a little too late.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. Like I said, we all need competition as well, you know. So that's the thing that we do all need. G'day, Joe, too. Yeah, we do. We all need competition, and if someone like Nikon did fail, well, it's going to hurt all of us, you know. And that's the thing. Like, we need that to push the manufacturers you're already in. But you know, I think the winners at the moment are definitely Canon and Sony. But Fuji are doing very, very well in the APS-C market. So let's look at their new camera because it looks really good, actually. Let me just come to here. I'll share the screen again. So Fuji just announced this new camera that they've come out. It's called the X-S10. It's basically, they're saying it really is like a small X-T4. Great fold-out screen, though. I mean, the screen looks lovely. It's a 26.1 megapixel X-Trans sensor, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But they've changed the design now, and it's changed more towards a mirrorless type design. They've gone away from the that sort of vintage look of cameras, which is interesting. How do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like the XH1. It looked more similar to a mirrorless type camera. So I think they're kind of going that route. And I don't, when I had the Nikon or the Fuji X-T3, X-T4, and XH1, I preferred the XH1 over the X-T3 and X-T4. I love the look of the X-T3 and X-T4. I mean, the everything was brilliant about it. But after you start playing with those dials in a professional setting, I know this doesn't, people told me before, that it doesn't bug them. But for me, it just came a little, the how you say that? The cool factor of those knobs really slowed me down when I needed to work fast. So I ended up just setting it up with the front, command dial as the aperture and the rear one as a shutter. So I was basically using it like my mirrorless cameras anyways. So I think maybe they got a lot of people that kind of think the same and maybe don't go to Fuji for that purpose. So maybe that's why they're taking this route to make it more just a quicker workflow. That's the only thing I can think of, because they did that with the XH1 in essence. So I think they're just kind of doing that. If you want all those dials, well, they've got the XT4 and all those other ones. So I think it was a good call for them to do.
Panda gave us a donation too. He said, okay, guys, hand everything over.
For $10? Yeah, and everything over. You were trying to. Wasn't he trying to buy a gimbal off you for $10?
Yeah, he was. He's going to come over and raid the house. He said.
Yeah, it's so funny.
We have to keep him out of Australia. I'm just checking here too. Rob said, David, it's the point where lenses are more of a reason to switch than the camera. Canon RF lenses are amazing. Sony GM lenses are world-renowned. Lens selection could be the driving force as well, he said. Yeah, I like this. Joe also said, sorry, hey, David, you're really making me thinking of that A7S for photography. I know that I'm not joking. The A7S images are the nicest
you were saying
straight out of camera JPEGs I've ever seen. And in fact, I'm going to use that camera now for weddings. I don't care it's only 12 megapixels because it's going to be ample for what I will do. I'm going to be using that with my other cameras because, boy, when I looked at those images and what you saw was basically straight out of camera, it is nuts. It really is
that
nuts.
Guy with the afro is going to come after you, man. he's gonna put I shoot raw only in your face, dude. The funny thing is I played with some of the files from the A7S3. Someone allowed us to download them, and yeah, they're really good. Now Fuji's known for that, and I had Fuji, and I can attest to the fact that they look great right out of camera. And from the Sony A7S3 files that I played with, yeah, they look really, really good. See, people didn't understand when they got mad at me when I say, oh man, I'm just going to use the JPEG. Of course, I always shoot RAW plus JPEG just in case you blown out something. I mean, but half the time, I actually did a jewelry shoot today, and I said, let me see what the RAWs look like, just because I haven't did it in a while, because I use JPEG for jewelry shoots. And why would you use that? Well, I mean, I'm setting up the scene exactly how I want it lit. There's nothing blown out that I don't want blown out, nothing, all that stuff. So there's really no need. So when I did the RAWs, it's like, and I looked at the JPEG, there I am, again, like I've tried many times on other cameras, is trying to get it to, or on the Fuji cameras, trying to get the RAW to look like the JPEG. It's like, why? Just use the JPEG, hello, unless you have that situation where you screwed something up. But to be honest with you, with peaking, or not peaking, zebras and all that stuff, I don't typically, I don't want to sound like I'm perfect, but I don't typically just mess up a shot like that to where the JPEG can't push and pull a little bit. Now, there are times where I won't use a flash and the background's clearly blown out. Of course, that's when I would absolutely use RAW. But I'm like you. I mean, JPEGs look nice. Why sit there and try to, I got to make it look like JPEG because someone told me I need to shoot RAW and I'm an idiot if I don't. I mean, just use the JPEG if it looks good.
Well, it's quite funny because I did exactly what you just said. When I downloaded the images, I downloaded the RAW and the JPEG files. And then I looked at the JPEG files and I thought, oh my God, these are amazing. And then I thought, well, okay, I'll go to the RAW and edit those. But when I opened up the RAW and I looked and I thought, oh, I'm going back to the JPEGs because the JPEGs just look brilliant. The only thing, like I said, I probably would have done is, and I'll have to do another test, I might just drop the sharpness down just a touch. Now, someone asked what picture profile. Matt said, what picture profile did I use? It was just standard and everything was standard. So I never changed anything on that matte. So, but I think probably what I'll do is I might drop the sharpness down 2 or something, just so it's not so sharp out of camera, because honestly it is that sharp, it's nuts. And the images, the rendering is gorgeous, the colors are gorgeous. Like I said, I don't want to stop using it, and it's really funny because I mean, you know, I love my A9 and all that sort of stuff, but I'm telling you, the files out of that, if I'm doing portraits or anything, they're gorgeous. But let's get back to the Fuji anyway, but yeah.
Oh yeah, we
stunning.
went off on another camera. Poor Fuji.
Yeah.
Dana just said that the XH1 has the same dials as the XT3 and XT4. And as I was explaining, I was kind of thinking, I think it is the same, but I wasn't sure. Thanks for reminding us, Dana.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it looks quite nice. So they have definitely changed the design completely. So it has gone more, like I said, your mirrorless sort of camera, you know, with your same sort of controls and stuff like that. But I think it looks like a great little camera. It does have, I'm just coming down to where it talked about specs because it looks really good. They're saying that the IBIS is going to give you 6 stops. So that's fantastic, actually, if you're getting 6 stops. And they're saying that it was able to focus in -7, which is nuts. It's down here. The sensor features a 2.16 million phase detection pixels, which Fujifilm rates to achieve focus in as fast as 0.2 seconds, and in some cases, -7 EV. I suppose that would just depend too on what lens you've got, but that is ridiculous. But you know, I think this is going to be a really nice little camera. It's got the 18 film simulations.
Flip out
got
screen.
The variable angle screen.
It's got a button right there too, but next to the viewfinder, which I thought was kind of strange. If you look at the circular viewfinder, right to the right there, that's an actual button right there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I was reading an article on it, and it's an actual. I don't know what the button does. Yeah, I don't know. It just was pointing out the custom buttons. So
I wonder if you could just turn off the EVF and then have, or the viewfinder, and then, you know, it might be a good switch to if you were
I don't know.
only wanted the back screen on.
But it's a button.
It oversamples video at 6K for a 4K output, so probably the same as what the A7S, A6400 and etc. are doing.
Yeah.
It can record 4K up to 30 frames per second, so there's no 4K 60, and it's also 4208-bit, so I wouldn't expect to get that anyway. But you can output 422 10-bit via HDMI, so at least they're giving you that, Aaron. So
yeah,
you know.
I think it looks pretty good. I mean, if you don't like the control scheme on the XT3s and XT4s, and you don't need the high-end video, this looks like a really good camera to get. Actually,
it's 250 frames per second in 1080p too. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
They're saying it's going to retail for $1,499,
which is a good
with
price.
A kit lens. It's $1,399 just for the body.
Nice, huh?
Oh no, the X-Bot. No, the body's only $1,000, $999.95. So $1,000. Yeah,
so
it's $1,000
with the lens.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good. See,
I like it. I actually think it looks really nice. I like the design. It's got a built-in flash as well, which can be handy.
I hate when they got rid of the flash. I know that's like you're not supposed to shoot, you know, direct, but if you know how to use it at a subtle,
you
very
can bounce
subtle,
it off the ceiling too.
Well, bounce it off the ceiling, fill flash, catch lights. I mean, you can do a lot with it. You just don't turn it up real bright so it looks, you know, you have all the shadows in the wrong places. But I've used that actually on the A6000 and
A6400 has it as well, I think.
Yeah,
it still has it. I haven't had that up, but yeah, I know I did like that. I'm not sure if the A6400 has it.
Yeah, one of them, they took it off of one of them. That's why I couldn't remember which one they took it off of. But it was
kind of off that one.
Yeah,
but I did like that too. Yeah,
they should make them swivel. I don't know why they don't make those little things swivel, but you know, whatever.
Well, I used to use it was the A6300, I think, that had it, and I used to hold it back. That little flash and point it towards the the roof, which was.
I did a video on it for my YouTube channel showing that.
Yep.
Actually, I made a piece of Velcro that you Velcro it back and it holds it there, so you don't have to hold your hand. And that way, if you turn it into portrait, you can bounce off of that wall. And if you turn it portrait this way, you can bounce off of that wall. And of course, if you go this way, you bounce off the ceiling. So I did a video on showing you how you can use that little Velcro idea and use it as bounce flash. It actually works pretty darn good.
Oh, cool. And the last story before we show our picks was using this LIDAR. There's a video that you can play. I might just see if I can show a little bit of it, but it's incredible. Now he's using it here with the DJI. I think this actually is DJI that's going to release this. I've basically put an order in when it comes. I just said, send me one. I mean, I'll have to buy it, but I've put it down. When I say that, I've sent a thing to say, just let me know when they're in stock so I can purchase one. They're like a little thing here that you see. Now, I know the iPhone has it, which is meant to aid in focusing, but if I play this, let me just show, I'll show you his. Now, this is a 0.95 lens. Let me just come out and I'll show you an area where he shows it.
Now, is this the gimbal you have?
Yes, it is. Yeah, okay. He's using it on that gimbal, but you can see it's on top of the camera here.
Oh,
right?
I see it.
And it's connected through the gimbal. But this is these are 0.95 lenses that he's using, and it's going to track him around the room. Wow. It's amazing. Now, he does say that it really only keeps focus. You can see it's working here. It will only sort of keep focus in the center of the frame, but this is a 0.95 lens, and it's tracking him all around the room using that auto tracking that the DJI Ronin has. And it looks fantastic. Like if you think it's a 0.95 lens and it's basically keeping up with him as he's walking around and coming in. You can see it's moving there with his hand. You'll see it wasn't in focus on the outside, but then the second he goes into the center, it tracks his focus. Let me just see if he walks around the room. Let's have a look. I think he's just talking. Well, let me go back. I think I just opened it up. Let me go here. You can see here that he says it's great for a one-arm, it's a one-man band where you can walk around, have it tracking you. He was testing the autofocus between, I think it was the A7 III and the using this manual focus at 0.95. In some cases, the tracking was better with that little LIDAR focus module than it was on the A7 III. But a lot of the time, it was very, very close. And like I said, this was at 0.95.
Yeah, that's what's really
manual
crazy.
Focus lens. It's incredible. So this is the system here. You can see how it sits on top of the camera there. And it obviously uses the system like that connected through here to the lens. But boy,
that's like pretty cool.
It is cool. The latest iPhone has it as well, which they believe they use to do things like focus in nighttime, extreme low light. I wanted to congratulate Ian de Brown too. He's a granddad. He's just become a granddad, he said.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
How exciting.
So, congratulations, mate. This looks amazing. Where's this going to go, though? I mean, wow. You look at this and you think, God, that the manual focusing days could be over, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, when I had the, Dana will correct me on what lens I had, the Medicon 0.95.
Yeah.
If that thing had autofocus, I could use it like right now. And that's what I always had to, pre-focus, and I had to stand right here. I couldn't move even during our shows. So that'd be cool to be able to have that focus me now, like my Sony's doing right now. But yeah, very cool. Cool indeed.
Yeah, I know, and I think it's really exciting, actually.
Yeah.
Where was it? I noticed too. Mike said, with what computer you both editing your 4K footage? Well, I'll tell you mine, and then Aaron, I'll tell you his. I'm using a Mac Pro. It's one of the trash can Macs, though. It was one of the higher-ended models. Mine can do up to 4K 60 fine if I shoot. I can't shoot with the really compressed files, but it will do like butter for the if I'm using ProRes. It works very, very well. But I'm going to upgrade to a silicon, the ARM Mac once that comes out, probably early next year sometime. But Aaron is very successful using his iPad, aren't you, Aaron?
Well, it depends on what it is. If it's just iPad Pro, 12 point whatever inch screen. This is 2017 version, I think. 4K 60p, 1080, 30p, 24p, 4K 1080. I even did 2K video with something that I thought was going to really push it. I forget what camera it was. Someone sent me the clip. I can't remember what it was. It did it all fine. I mean, even multiple layers and all that stuff. So if it's just a basic edit, like if I were, like I typically did like commercials and where there's no special effects or anything like that, then I would use that. But if I'm going to do something a little more in-depth, like a short film, then I just use my computer that you see right here, which is just a regular PC. I don't even remember. This is probably about, this might be 5 years old now. NVIDIA something or other in it. I mean, it's not a slow computer, and it works just fine. And I use DaVinci Resolve to do most of my edits now. And I used to use Adobe Premiere Pro. And yeah, anything works. If it's just normal type edits, the iPad Pro does it really good.
So Phil, if you haven't checked Phil's YouTube out, check him out because he does some. I like his sense of humor. He has a really cool sense of humor. He said here he misses his internal NDs of the C100 1 and 2 so hard. I know. I would have loved the A7S to have internal NDs, but I suppose it's just not big enough a camera that they can. Well, I don't know, because you can put them in the ZV-1 has it, but it's just a decision that I suppose they don't want you to be too close to what you'd have with the FX6 or the FX9, Aaron. But have you ever used one with the electronic NDs, Aaron?
No, never had it. Any shows that we've did out here, we've never had anything with it. So I don't even have any experience with it. We just use the ND filters, or we started using, this variable, but those always kind of looked weird. So we did that, or the like the box with the slider filters in. I don't even remember my terminology. We just use those. So man, having internal ND filters would be absolutely amazing. And one of these days, someone's gonna come out with one of these mirrorless cameras with that. They have to. Didn't you just say you had a camera that had it?
Well, the ZV-1 has it.
Yeah. See, so
it's only 3-stop, but it does help.
Yeah, they'll be putting it in there. I would assume. I hope so, because that would be great. That would be really good.
Also, Langston, g'day Langston, also said, David Osler, this is a game changer for me. See, Langston, because he uses the Blackmagic cameras, that LIDAR system would be amazing for him. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he's hanging out to get that like crazy. Yeah. And that's the system that they showed, using it with the system that Langston has.
Yeah, he had the Blackmagic.
Yeah, it will be fantastic, that's for sure. What are we looking at here? Jim said, I edit 4K 60 from my A7 III on my 2015 iMac, 4 gigahertz quad core Intel Core i7, 16 gigabytes of RAM. What else have we got? Mark said, think of the vintage lenses. I know this is the great thing, Mark. Like the lenses that you would be able to use all of a sudden would be incredible and have what looks like really good. Remember, this is only in its early days yet, so this is going to get better and better. And what he showed in that video, like I said, I'll leave the link, watch it. It's incredible how good it actually works. Yes, it does miss in spots and stuff, but it's a very, very usable system.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Colin also said, I haven't had any issues editing any of my A7S III formats with my MacBook Pro 219 16-inch. Yeah, well, that's a fairly current one, so it should work pretty well with that type of computer as well. What else? Langston said here that it's perfect because movement and remembering focus distance with no dedicated puller becomes a challenge. And Aaron knows all about that because that's exactly the areas that he used to come from.
Yep, exactly.
Panda also said that, because he uses all the RX lenses. So Panda said, this is a game changer for me too when I take everyone's gear and hide in the storage unit. I love it. Yeah, because Panda's using all the RX lenses. So they're all manual focus as well. He's always been a manual focus shooter.
Remember, David, you said maybe not too many shows ago that you asked me, do you think autofocus will get good enough to where we don't need to ever use manual? And I'm sure it's going to get... I'm sure that'd be stupid to say it won't, where you might just be able to do, some really like expensive project and actually rely on it probably most indefinitely, especially don't they have like, don't our cameras, you could take a picture of the bride and then later on it'll focus on the bride's face when you see her. Yeah. So I'm sure you'll be able to put that into different actors and stuff, and I'm sure it's going to just do it so good where you might not even need to do manual focus ever again. Who knows?
And the thing too,
it looks like it might be that
some of the old vintage lenses are beautiful, like especially if you want that nice vintagey feel. You know, like sometimes
Dana knows all about it.
Yeah, because sometimes if you're doing weddings with ridiculously sharp lenses, the look is not really what you want. In fact, I've bought a Tiffin, what they call Black Magic diffusion filter that comes on it, because I want that a little bit softer.
You like the Pro Mist? The Pro
Mist. Yeah, I've bought two of them. I've bought the 1/8 and the 1/4.
Yeah, I've got those.
Yeah, I've got them because I think sometimes it might be nice to soften the image a little bit, because I want to try and get away from having that digital look, Aaron. Now, how do you find them? Have you used them enough to think, well, you like them or not?
No, yeah, I've used them all a lot, actually. And I love how, if you ever, did I do a video on my YouTube channel with those? Can't remember. But if you see any light sources too, the light sources really have a cool look to them. And once you use it, or at least look up what they are, you'll spot them in Hollywood like all the time. You go, oh man, look at the lights, how they bloom in the background. You're going to know that it was like a Pro Mist filter. And yeah, that's the thing. Why I do like older lenses. I think the newer lenses are they're trying to get clinically perfect by putting all the lens correction things in there. And I've read a couple articles about the more perfect you get a lens, of course, the more character or 3D pop and all these things that you start losing. And but I think that is due to getting rid of chromatic aberration, having those filter elements that fix all that, really are bending the light in different ways to not have those things that we find or seem to have negative looks in our image. But then you're also getting just a more flat, sharp, clinical look. And depending on what you shoot, like, of course, jewelry photography, which I've been doing a lot lately I need as sharp as I can get. Yeah. But for filming people or photographing people, you know, it just looks a little like, you know, it just takes the magic out of a lot of the stuff. So that's kind of why I like the Zeiss 55. It has a lot of chromatic aberration, and I think it has a character to it because it has chromatic aberration. I'm not saying that you see the chromatic aberration. That's giving it the character. It's those elements that would correct that, is bending light in ways I don't know all the technical things about it, but I just think that's what's going on. So a Pro Mist filter can go on any really clinically sharp lens and then kind of give it a character of at least softness, and takes that digital look out of the stuff. Now, have you used it yet, the filters, David?
Well, I actually used it when I did that video where I went to the waterfalls, Aaron. I just didn't tell anyone I used it.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I used it. I used it there. But the thing that I'm trying to do is to get it so the issue is, I think, for stills, you want that nice sharp look and everything else. But as soon as you go to videography, if you want a filmic sort of, and I know everyone uses that cinematic type look, but if you want that cinematic type look, you can't have it too sharp. That's the issue, because it looks like you've shot it with an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's too sharp. But you could do portraits with Pro Mist too if you want just a nice vintage soft feel from the photo. It just depends on your artistic eye. But I think today everybody wants the absolute sharpest lens, so you know that just sounds really good on paper. It looks amazing when people shoot brick walls and go, wow, look at the sharpness. And I mean, I don't want to just buy a blurry lens, but I think most lenses now are quite sharp to where it's not. I think it could be beneficial to get a Pro Mist if you're into more putting more character into a film or into your photography. I never used them in photography, but I've seen other people use it where that's kind of their go-to. They like a softer, more what do you call it? Film look, I guess, is what they're trying to go for. And it does kind of give you that sense, because it's not clinically
Rob
sharp.
said is interesting, because Rob said that it's like a vinyl versus digital in music. Vinyl might be flawed, but it has character that digital never has.
Yeah, I love when I was a kid and we had record players, and you'd put that on there and hear that like static or that scratch of the imperfect sound. You know, it's not like pure quiet like digital, but then it just has that rich feel, and that's basically what a Pro Mist is kind of emulating, and it works pretty good. I like it.
But I think I'll test it a little bit more, but I think in the weddings next year, that's why I bought two of them. I bought the 1/4 and I bought the 8th. Some people were saying, yeah, the 8th is better because it's not quite as strong and it just gives you that very subtle amount.
Yeah, the other one's a little too strong.
Yeah, but then if you're like in a reception or whatever where there's lighting, the quarter gives you beautiful looking lights and stuff like that, which is that real moody type look. So
yeah, the lights
I'm really excited. The quarter is on order, so I haven't got that yet, but I've just got the 8th at the moment. But yeah, but they're coming. So Aaron, did you want to show your pitch first, and then we'll show ours?
Let's see. Share screen, application window. Boom, boom. Can you see it?
Let me go add to screen. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, lovely. So I posted this on socials, just kind of showing, like, a few years ago I had a bucket list to do a photo in Central Park at winter time, and me and my wife, we made it. We checked that bucket list off, and that's what you're seeing on the left. This was done, maybe 3 years ago, maybe more. I'm terrible with time, but basically this was the Panasonic G7 or G9, I can't remember at the moment, but it was with the 35 to 100 f2.8 lens. If you times the 2 times factor on that, it's a 200 millimeter equivalent, and that's what I used to get this shot. And I basically laid on the ground and got the shot, and I always had this envision just to get this Central Park winter shot. So I did that. Then just a couple months ago, or last month, it seemed like time went so quick. Last month I said, hey, I think this is that same spot that we did that winter shoot. Let's do it again. So my wife, we were out doing a photo shoot, and so I said, let's do a photo right here. And I just tried to use my memory on what I did. But now we're on the right. It was, of course, fall time. We're just starting to get yellow leaves here. And this was on the Sony a7 III with the Samyang 75 millimeter f2.8. And you just kind of get a perspective difference using a 200 millimeter equivalent with the compression opposed to 75. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to show you guys that. No flashes were used. It was just all natural light. And the Micro Four Thirds held up pretty good, even though it was kind of low light-ish. And, and I did some spot exposure on her to bring her up. And over here on the Sony, it was much brighter. And I basically made sure I had the zebras just barely coming out on these leaves back here. And then in post, I just bring up the shadows because I don't typically take flash with me on most of my trips. I always take it with me, but I don't always get it out. And that's what it is. So there's kind of a different perspective in times and lenses.
Cool. So let me take that out. I'll share mine. I was just going to show one that I did from the A7S III, just to sort of show how sharp it is. So this was one I just did the other day. So I thought I'd show this. Yeah, and like the sharpness of the flower that she's holding in her hand and all over, like if you look at the plane of focus, this was taken with the 135 millimeter. But this is straight out of camera JPEGs. Like, I haven't had to touch this. It's nuts.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, like I said, it is nuts. This is where I was saying about the A7S III as being so beautiful. And the interesting thing too was I was using auto white balance, and often if you're sitting on the green grass like that, she would have had green tints through her skin and all that sort of stuff. And it has got the white balance. It's nailed it. Like, I didn't have to adjust color white balance or anything on this at all. And it's... I don't know. I just think they're now just hitting it. It's getting to the point where, honestly, we're getting spoiled, Aaron, because if I can just go out and just grab a camera, shoot that, and don't have to do anything to it, like straight out of camera, I just think, boy.
But see, now you're getting the idea of how the Fuji users feel when they see those JPEGs come out that are just so good. Now the Sony has that same quality, what you're saying, and I've tested it too, but with the full frame goodness, which with the high dynamic range, that looks amazing. Good shot. And
I can print that up to 20 by 30 inches. Like, that is massive. It's really all I need, and this is why I'm starting to think I just don't want to put it down. Like, if I do weddings, I won't want to use this because it's gorgeous. It's like nuts. I just couldn't believe it. Like, honestly, like I didn't even touch. Like I said, I looked at the raws for a second, and then I thought, nah, I can't be bothered to go in and edit them and everything. And why edit them to make it look like that when I've already got it?
Now, that's an amazing shot. How did you expose for this shot? What, like, do you use metering? What'd you do for the shot?
Just your normal metering, just basically balanced it through the camera, made sure my histogram didn't clip off the edge. And that was it, and just exposed, and the full dynamic range was there. The thing is too, Aaron, this is going to get better, because once you get the HEIF format that starts to come in, and then once Lightroom can edit that, those files are 10-bit 422. Now,
what, on the HEIF?
Yes, and they're smaller than JPEG. So I can just imagine when we can start to edit the HEIF formats, you'll never touch RAW again, because the dynamic range is going to be amazing. They're 10-bit 422. You're going to have that ability to adjust them, and they're going to be tiny in size, and it'll be probably the same color that you get with the JPEG. It'll be better than even the JPEG. So, you know, but I've never seen greens out of the Sony quite like what I've got from the A7S III. The greens are stunning out of it. Like, they've always been a bit muddy, and I showed that when I compared it to the A7 III.
Yeah.
You know, and it looks, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it's.
Well, are they supposed to have that HEIF come in a firmware update, you said?
Well, it's there now. It's just that nothing can support it at this stage. There is software, but you can convert it to, you have to use the software to convert to RAW or to JPEG. But I'm sure eventually Lightroom will have it native.
Well, I was saying that I typically, if I'm not doing a shot where I'm not using flash and the background's bright and I'm, increasing the shadows a lot, if it's a pretty balanced exposure, then with what you're saying, and my experience with JPEGs, where you kind of push and pull a little bit, you're just going to get that much more. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite amazing. I can't wait till you can start showing some examples of that.
Mike also said, and this is a great idea, now you just have to add one of Lisdian in spring and summer.
Well, we did another shoot. Well, I actually did that on a different area from there, but now I am going to go back and play around with that, maybe with a different lens, maybe a wider lens, get different perspectives of same location. Of course, it might be different times, but at least it'd be kind of fun to play with. So yeah, I will be.
Axman, do you want to talk about this, Aaron? Because Axman said, excuse my ignorance, could you guys talk a bit about how you bring up the shadows in post? I don't understand how you do it without lightening everything.
Yeah, well, let's tell you how I expose for most of my shots. If you go to my Instagram, I do use flash, but most of my shots are not flash. You'll never know, because I usually use flash kind of subtle, and you probably won't know, but most of those photos are not flash. And what I do is I put zebras at 100+ on my camera, Sony a7 III or a7R III or whatever camera it is, and I will expose to where the zebras are all over the sky or whatever's bright in the background, and then I'll take the exposure down to where the zebras are just barely dancing on bright areas, let's say clouds or sky, and so that means my subject's going to be in shade or shadow or darker than the background. Well, then I take that raw file, and when you take the shadow slider, you just boost those up, and it only is going to increase the shadows and not the highlights, because you have an overall exposure, which will brighten everything up. Then you have highlights, which will only brighten the bright parts of the scene. Then you have midtones or shadows, which will only boost the shadows or the dark parts of the image. Then you have a white and black, which do those independently.
Now you don't use Lightroom, Aaron, do you?
I do. No, I've always used Lightroom. Yeah, and the new Lightroom just came out too for the iPad. Look, see, I had that photo ready here. Oh yeah, I use the Lightroom, and over here is the the sliders. Here's what it says: it's exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows. So I was using the good terminology, and just bring the shadows up, and you just see only the shadows go. So it's not that hard.
Let me just check down here, because we're just about finished. I'm De Brown said, I do wish the Sony a7S was 16 or 19. Well, I'm not worried about it now. Originally I was really down on it, and now since I thought about how I used to shoot, I'm quite comfortable. I very rarely ever go past 20 by 30 inches for prints anyway. And if I did, I could use gigapixel to up that resolution anyway, and you'd never notice the difference. So
my electric might go out, so just let you know.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, we're just about nearly finished anyway.
Something just kind of dimmed here. Someone asked me a question, Aaron. When you change from camera, you are already a long time. I don't understand. what you're saying there. Try to reword that, Mike.
Nice photo, David. Did you try to edit your photos in Capture One? No, I've got Capture One, but I've never used it. But like I said, the results I'm just getting in Lightroom with the A7S III are incredible anyway. So, you know, that's... I don't know. Bro, you have no life if you're talking about... I'm not sure what he's talking about there. Who knows? Yeah. And well, really, guys, that's it. We're at the end of the show anyway. Aaron's going to lose power anyway.
I know. I think I might. I'm kind of getting nervous about it.
Yeah, I think we're going to go out anyway. I'll be back again Friday for the live show, so stay tuned for that. And we'll be back again next time, same time, with Aaron as well. So we
check out our Facebook group.
Yeah, go to the Photography Videography School, guys. The link is in the description down below. So please join us there if you haven't. Let me just get rid of this guy because I just don't like anyone putting stupid comments like that.
Thanks, Phil. I'll go check out your channel too right when I get off here if my power don't go out. It goes out a lot here.
Yeah, he's got some cool things. Yeah,
I
love his sense of humor. He's a really funny guy. So check him out if you haven't checked him out. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great weekend and stay safe.
Thanks, guys.
That's all there is.
See you next week.
We'll see you all in the next show next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.